Hello guys, this is Leo. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join us, and then we'll get started. We'll get straight into it. So firstly, can you hear me? Is everything coming through okay? Just drop that into the Q&A if you can there, just so that I know that you're here and you can hear me and stuff, because we wouldn't want to start without that. So yeah, you can just add a Q&A into the corner there. There's an option just there for the Q&A. Yeah, the view numbers are going up now, so I know that we're on air and that everybody can see me. So in the meantime, does anybody have any questions? If you can't hear me again, just let me know. But if you have any questions, just drop them in there. We've got a couple of Q&As in there already. So we'll get started on the hour prompt. I can hear you. Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, Joseph. I know that Joseph's put a question in there already, but if anybody else has any questions, just drop them in now. If we don't get a chance to run through them prior to starting, and we'll start in a couple of minutes' time, as we just let people file in here. If I don't get through to them before we start, then I'll get through to them as we progress through the event today. So again, I hope everybody's well. My name's Liam Veach. I'm the author of this book, Stop Thinking Like a Freelancer, and yeah, I'm the founder at Freelance Lift and also the founder at Tone, a 12-person web agency now. The thing that I grew from a laptop and a rented desk in a co-working space. So it's great to have you here. I'll just wait for a few more people to come through. Yeah, we got Ignace in there. Hello, you. Thanks for dropping a comment there. And yeah, we'll just wait on for a few more minutes. Yeah, okay, so we're up to a reasonable amount of people here. It's definitely going to be a busy one tonight. And yeah, one of the things I wanted to go through was just the fact that we'll get straight into it, really. As I mentioned in the email, I'm not the type of person that gives false hype and the things like that. You know that Google Hangouts is an unlimited platform. There's quite a few people here now, so we're not going to get full, but we do have a lot of stuff to get through. So we'll get started on that. The purpose of this event tonight is just to help you get clarity, really, on the things that you should be doing with your own website. One of the things that I always say is that as freelancers, we often treat our website as if it's a second-class citizen, really. We copy competitors a lot of the time because that seems to be what everybody else is doing, and they seem to get neglected, which means that when it comes to driving attention and getting leads and getting interest from places other than freelancer exchanges, it's a little bit more difficult because your site really isn't contributing to that. So we've got some old members, some new members, some Freelance Lift Pro members, some free members, some people that have bought the book, and some people that are brand new to me. So it's a full spectrum. So before we start, I'll give you a quick 60-second rundown of me and who I am, and hopefully it'll help give you an idea of why I recommend some of the things that I do. So as I say, I wrote this book, Stop Thinking Like a Freelancer, and really it chronicles my journey, my journey from being a failure first time around as a freelancer to doing okay this second time around. The bit in between that was the real turning point for me was me going to work effectively, which was not something that I'd done before. I've always been self-employed, fairly independent, and of that kind of freelancer mindset. So it was a real shift, really, for me to go into full-time employment. But I did, and because it was a 400-person corporate machine, they did things quite differently. They did things like a business would do things. There are some things that big businesses great at, strategy, vision, really understanding who their customer is. And often as freelancers and small businesses, we neglect to do these kind of businessy things. So what I realized was that, yes, I needed to be a freelancer with the vision, the flair, the creativity, and the love for what I do. But I also needed to be a business. And that's where the term "stop thinking like a freelancer" comes from. There's a lot of poor quality stuff out there in the freelancer world. You know, I'm not the type of person to regurgitate that kind of stuff. There are lots of places where you can get, 10 weird tips for the, font size for your next proposal. That's not what we do at Freelance Lift. What I'm trying to do here is to build a small focused group of solopreneurs, freelancers, and people that really want to get more out of this. And there's lots out there. There's lots of opportunity there for you. I think we just struggle sometimes with the direction, the motivation, and also the accountability as one-person businesses. So that's where we're at this point. Just again, checking that everybody can hear me. I've got a few people chatting through here. Yep. All good. So without further ado, then we'll just get started. The session today obviously is about building a website which delivers leads, or that delivers leads. So where does it start? And again, I'm going to move fairly quickly as we go through this because I want it to be as action-packed as I can make it for you. So the first thing then is, what do top bracket freelancers do? And when I say top bracket freelancers, I mean people that are consistently earning, $5,000–10,000 per project. Again, I'm in the UK, so I generally talk in pounds when I'm over here. But for an international audience, I think dollars is better. So we're talking about people that are consistently getting $5,000–10,000 projects. How do they go about that? What are the things that they are doing differently to us? My stance on platforms like Elance and Odesk and Fiverr.com is fairly harsh from time to time, but it comes from a position of knowledge, really. I feel I owe it to you to tell you everything that I know if I feel that there's a better way. So what I want to do first is to say, right, okay, well, what do top bracket freelancers do? What are the people that are consistently earning $5,000–10,000 a month, $5,000–10,000 projects? What are they doing that is so different here? So the first one then is they make an effort not to target just the internet. So I'll explain that. When I'm advising people, again, in Freelance Lift Pro, on the best ways, the things that will make the highest leverage for them, the first thing is to really have an understanding of who the customer is. And, actually, it's not just who the customer is, but what specific market they're in. So what size of business they're in, what sector are they in, how many people work for them or with them, and what are their pains, what are their desires, their beliefs, their fears. If you don't know that and you just target everybody, or like a waiter, you'll serve anybody with money, if you are that person, then you're always going to struggle with blending into the pack, because if you're not again, reaching out there and positioning yourself different to the other members of that herd, then you'll always blend into it. So one of the breakthrough points for me was, from the outset, understanding that the second time around and saying, okay, well, if I'm going to make it here, if I'm going to stand out from the lots of other freelancers that are out there, I'm going to need to be a little bit more specialist. So that means, as it says there, just not making an effort not to target just the internet. So in my case, it was the music industry. I had an affinity with the music industry, and it was something that I knew a lot about. So I was able to do web design for the music industry. And I'm a designer by trade. So I would always recommend narrowing your potential pool of customers to increase the likelihood of making the sale. It seems counterintuitive, but it's true. So we'll just move on to the next one, which is top bracket freelancers exist outside of their own web presence. What do I mean by that? Well, you think about the freelancers that are reputable in your space, so the designer, the coder, the writer that everybody knows about. Can you say that really you know just about them through their work, or is there other stuff at play here? Are they well reputed in their space because they're providing value consistently? Do they have a popular blog? Are they contributing to open source land? Are they writing books? Are they just generally being valuable outside of their own web presence? Because that's something that top bracket freelancers do really well. They exist outside of their own web presence. So we'll go on to a little bit more as we go on specifics about how they do this, but just bear that one in mind. Top bracket freelancers exist outside of their own web presence. They realize how important it is to do that. They also understand that words are the common denominator. And again, one of the things that I'm always at pains to point out is words are the things that are most common in web pages. There are only so many ways that we can portray what we're trying to say. So there was a great post by Justin Jackson. His website is justinjackson.ca. And the post is just called Words. It went hugely viral. And all that was words on a page. No styling, no CSS, no nothing. But what it goes to show is that words are the common denominator between everything. So if you're trying to explain what you do as a service to somebody, then it's really important to get in their mindset, understand that they're reading this, they've got a million other things that they're trying to do at that moment in time. So how can you cut through that? How can you make sure that you're the person that they're going to listen to, really? And yeah, so I had a Q&A session, a podcast session with a chap called D Non-Tenant. You can find that on the Freelance Lift blog there. And his advice is simple. He calls them Sam. He says, give them a name. Who is that audience member? And imagine that you sat across from the table with them. What would you say to Sam in person that you wouldn't say on your website? So again, looking at it from a freelancer's point of view, are you saying on your website that you do valid HTML, CSS, or that you write at 300 words per minute or whatever? And does the client really care about that? If not, then you should be breaking it down and putting it in a language that the client really would care about it. The next one then is that top bracket freelancers understand that great design renders design vehicles secondary. So when I'm talking about great design, I'm talking about good design practice. So it's not necessarily overly complicated. It's not necessarily green buttons versus blue buttons. And the design vehicles that come a part of it, so the logo that you choose, the color scheme that you choose, these are all design vehicles that come secondary. So great design renders vehicles like this as secondary. Now we'll go into some examples really on how we can implement that in real terms. And they know that the site is a vehicle for starting a relationship. One of the most common issues that I see is a freelancer site trying to do everything at once. They're trying to open the conversation, they're trying to keep the conversation flowing, and they're trying to close the conversation all on one page. That's not a great way to run a sales funnel effectively. So top bracket freelancers understand that their site is a vehicle for starting a relationship. As we'll a little later on, we're going to go into the 10 things that your site should be doing. But just know that, yeah, number 5 is that the site is a vehicle for starting a relationship. What that means is if you can give them something of value that they can exchange for an email address or something that's not necessarily going to require a full 10-step web form, then you're going to have a much better chance of converting them. So just don't blend in is the next part. Do you specialize in building websites like everybody else, or do you design things which provide bottom line impact? Those are two phrases that are exactly the same in meaning, but mean a lot different. So let me explain. So the phrase, we specialize in building websites, you'll have probably seen it on sites that are like yours if you're a website builder. We specialize in building websites. So do 891,000 of your peers. That's the number of sites that phrase, that set of phrases appears on. We specialize in building websites. I mean, it's funny, if you could have told somebody 20 years ago what the iPhone would be, they would have no way of conceptualizing what you were trying to say or trying to envision. So when nowadays you see 10 iPhones in a day, then it becomes unremarkable again. So when your site is saying things like, we specialize in building websites, we make great websites, or we do great content or whatever, then what you're actually doing is blending yourself into the background, just like, again, the phenomenon of seeing the 10 iPhones in a day, where once it would have been a camera, a telephone, and a video camera all in one. Nowadays, it's just commonplace. And we specialize in building websites. That kind of terminology is akin to that. This is very commonplace stuff. So just don't blend in. What I want you to do is to think about how you can break away from that pack. Content writing expert, again, if you're a content writing expert, guess what? So are 635,000 of your peers. That's the number of people on Google that are saying those exact words in that precise order. 635,000 pages on the web are saying that. So if you are, then you're voluntarily blending yourself into the background. So does design matter then? Again, as a designer by trade, and as somebody that now heads up a 12-person agency that sees designs, that hires designers, that critiques designs on a day-to-day basis, I've got a good answer for that. And the answer is not really. What really matters is good design practice. And there's a difference. So design, yellow button versus blue button, that sort of dialogue doesn't really matter. What really matters is what the client is thinking at that moment in time and how you connect with them. Words matter. So laying out text matters. That's how, we'll go on to in a second when we look at the 10 things that your site must do. All these things matter. And design, when we're talking about design best practice, very much does matter. But it's one of those things that it depends, So does design matter? Well, that depends. So good design practice is essential. That is what matters. So what does that mean? Good design practice is different from good design. Good design practice is simplicity. Good design practice is good use of space. Good design practice is good use of fonts. Good design practice is being really, really clear as to what each page should do. Each page should give the person that's looking at it a clear idea of what they should think, what they should do, and what they should where they should go from here. And the job of your site's design is to portray your proposition clearly, efficiently, and quickly. So if it isn't doing that, then you're going to find that you'll struggle to get anywhere with it. So good design practice is essential. So when we're talking about design vehicles, they're not as important as good design practice. So your site should lead a person from point to point. It should make it really obvious what the next steps are, and it should portray your proposition quickly. And this is the thing, there's just no excuse for poor design practice these days, simply because there are so many options out there. You could use a site from dunked.com, or you could use a site from squarespace.com or themeforest.com. You can grab a theme from there. And then if you doubt, simplify. So a little bit later in the session, we're going to have a look at some freelancer websites, some of the attendees that are here today that have bravely given me their site for review. And yeah, we'll have a look at, in reality, how that plays out, good design practice. So this is an interesting one then, the F rule. You might want to write this down at this point. Here's a site from Leah Kalamakis, who's great guns. She's a great designer, and she understands the power of the F rule. So you're all familiar probably with the research and realization that you've got about 8 seconds to really convince somebody that they're in the right place. But what a lot of people are unaware of is how people visualize a site, how they work it out. So if you look at the site like this, then it's very difficult at this point to pin down where somebody might look. But if I do this, then it becomes a little bit clearer. So there's a general rule of F, and there's lots of studies that have taken place to corroborate this, that when somebody's visualizing a site, they'll go across the top, then down the left, and then across the middle. It's called the rule of F, and it's something that a lot of top bracket freelancers really understand. So Leah understands this site really well. If I take away the F, you see, this is the area where the most important content sits. So you're a pro. Are you ready to look like it? Design and code for brilliant entrepreneurs. So again, brilliant entrepreneurs, it's a subset of an audience. What Leah isn't saying there is, do you want a website? Are you a business that needs a website? Because of course they are. What she's saying is it's digital design and code for entrepreneurs who want to look like a pro and have fun getting there. So great image there again that just portrays that trust and that familiarity really as well. And yeah, all the key elements placed in that F area. But Leah's not alone. So this is Paul Jarvis. Paul Jarvis again is somebody who's booked up for months and months and months. He's next opening from talking to him the other day was, I think, June or something, June, July, and that's his next available slot. So he understands this too, and it might not seem obvious until we add this there, and then this too. So obviously you've got, again, exactly the same F shape, but with the main key items in here, and with a little bit of conversion rate optimization trickery here. Again, that's been shown as well. So if a subject is looking at a particular part of a page, then it draws your eye to it as well. So again, Paul's put his primary content in here in this area that you're going to glance at first. Next one then is copy hackers. This is Joanna Weber, who's actually a conversion copywriter, so she should know everything there is to know about it. And again, you drop the F on there. Everything that needs to be seen is in this primary area. You've got the full headline here, which again is really clear, it's succinct, and it gives the reader everything that they need to know in a short, sharp sentence there. And then, you know, the eyes are popping through there and the names as well. So these are really interesting points that not a lot of people really understand and can get to grips with. So if you're really clear on the value of that F-shaped principle, then you'll be in a really good position to start pushing forward with this. So just before we get into the top 10 things that your website should do, does anybody have any questions for anything that we've gone through so far? Slide's not changing from cover image. Oh no. Right, so what I'm getting from this then is that the slides aren't showing. Just let me know that's correct in there, and then we'll look to see whether we can fix that bug. Oh, that's a shame. So to confirm, you've not seen the slides that I've been displaying there. PowerPoint window, same page. Okay. So could you guys confirm that you can see the screen, the slides moving now at this point? Okay. So what I shall do is let's see. Okay, so I'm going to keep going anyway. It's difficult to get instant feedback in the Q&A section, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that you can see it at least. I can keep progressing then, so that we can at least get some value out of my my verbiage, my chatting it through. So let's see if that in fact just. I'm sorry about this, guys. This is this is a real shame. Right. Well, actually, what I'll do is I shall go through the content without sharing my screen, and then we'll see if I'm a better presenter than I'm a PowerPointer. Okay. So we talked about the rule of F, and what the rule of F is on a particular web page, and I'll share the slides with you after we're finished. On a web page, a viewer will look in an F shape, so they'll look down the right-hand side, down the left-hand side, sorry, and then across the top and across the middle. That's called the rule of F, and what I was demonstrating on the slides was different websites and how they achieved this look. So Leah Kalamakis, again, I'll share the slides with you anyway, but Leah Kalamakis does this really well. So she has a headline across the top there, a subhead across the middle, and then her image is on the left-hand side there. It's a really nice F shape. Likewise with Paul Jarvis, he's got quite a chunky headline across the top, and then his face is in here and it goes down there. The same with copyhackers.com with Joanna's site. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through the 10 things that your website should do. And then what I think I'll do is we'll jump into the attendee site reviews, and then I'll do another recap, and we'll see if, even if we can't see the slides, whether we can go through some of the examples that I was pulling apart in my 10 things that your site should do. So the first thing that your website should do then is fit the worldview of your dream client. So if you go to calebwojcikfilms.com, you might need to kind of Google that, Caleb and then W-O-J, and you'll find the rest. His prospects are already doing video. So he's got a really clear headline here, which is talking head videos. Most talking head videos suck. Yours don't have to. So what he's doing there is understanding who is going to be visiting his site. So number one is that your site must fit the worldview of your client, the person that's going to be viewing it. So if your client, and again, we've got a good example from Jim Jones a little bit later on, who's one of the attendees today. His site is aimed specifically at a really technical community, so Ruby on Rails developers or people that are hiring Ruby on Rails developers. So he speaks in very much technical lingo. But if my site, for example, if our site was aimed at somebody who wasn't so technical, then it wouldn't be the right type of language. So the first thing that your website must do is speak the language. It must fit the worldview of your dream client. And the second thing then is it must follow design best practice. So again, we went through again some of the examples before, but design best practice is different to design. Design best practice is not necessarily overly busy, not necessarily this color, not necessarily that color. It just is. So medium.com do this really well. Very, very, very simple pages, but because they follow design best practice, they're legible, the colors are clean, the spacing is good, and the usability is good for mobile and cross-device because they're doing all this stuff. It's following design best practice, it's readable, it's useful. Third thing then is that the site must leverage effective headlines. And again, we had a good example of that, which is Jared Drysdale's site, and he's at studiofellow.com. You can check out that site. Again, just as we're talking here, and for anybody that's joining late, I screwed up the slides bad. So the third thing is it should leverage effective headlines. Again, the Leah Kalamakis example has a great headline. The Paul Jarvis site has a great headline. Headlines are really the differentiator between a lot of sites that perform well and sites that don't perform so well. Because you'll often see, again, technical jargon on there. So what is probably the most common headline that I see is, we build websites, or we can help you grow your business. It's like, well, how and why and what am I thinking and why should I care and who are you to tell me that, you know? So if you can put all that out there on in headlines, and they're effective, these headlines, then it can really help your site be more successful. And yeah, they don't have to be big, they don't have to be overly copywritten. They just need to tell the client why they're in this situation, and then walk them through a point where, you know, they understand that you're the right service provider for them. Remember, they're not hiring you because you can design or write or code. They're hiring you because they have a business problem, and your service, so they think, is the solution to that problem. And that's the key mistake that I see a lot of most freelancers make, actually. Not making the distinction between their skills and their story and the client's story. I mean, ultimately, the client only really cares about solving the business problem, the business pain they have. So do they really care if, you know, again, you can write 300 words a minute? Do they really care as a writer? Do they really care that, you know, you build things that are W3C compliant as a developer? Do they really care that you use CSS3 as a designer? The honest answer is no. The honest the question that you should be asking yourself is, would the client care about this word? Is it contributing to their goals? Is it telling them why they're in this situation and making you really the only solution to their problems? So number 4 then is, again, as I just started to go down, it should tell this client why they're in this situation. An example I have here is from a site called informationhighwayman.com, which is the site of D. Non-Tenant, who was the copywriter that I referred to a moment ago. What he says, and I'll read word for word. As a small business owner, you probably didn't invest in a copywriter to build your website, to create your copy on your site. Maybe now you're starting to realize that was a mistake. And this is great. It's really good. And again, the Jim Jones' site, who we'll refer back to shortly, he does the same thing. So his opening gambit is finding senior Rails developers is tough, right? Some words to that effect. And what he's really doing is telling the person that's viewing it why they're in that particular situation. So as a copywriter, you might say, are you struggling to get results from your copy? And again, it's walking the dream client, the client that's going to be looking at this, walking them through what their problems are and how your service aligns with that. The 5th one then is that your site should show them your passion and experience. So there are a number of ways you can do this. First way is obviously to just provide value on your site. If you hit the Tone site, which is tone.co.uk, if you hit there, you'll see videos, you'll see ebooks, you'll see blog posts. What we're doing there, it's not really necessary for us to do all that stuff, but what we're doing there is showing an element of passion, of care, and of experience, you know, that in the stuff that we're putting out there. So if your site isn't showing all that stuff, then it will be difficult for a client to interact with and to get value from over and above what they want to kind of have you do. So yeah, so it's either a blog or, you know, illustrations or really in-depth case studies. There's a site, thanlax.com, and they were a small boutique web agency, so kind of like 2 freelancers that grew a little bit. And their company was acquired by Facebook in December, simply because they were really, really good at what they did. And one of the things they did really well was to showcase huge, and again, I've got this in the slides. It's crazy that I can't show you these slides, but this is live, I suppose. They've got crazy, crazy, crazy long case studies. So case studies that really go in depth as to what the client's problem was, how we fixed it, what the obstacles were, what the roadblocks were, and what they would do better next time. So if you are putting that much passion into the stuff that you're doing on your site, then the chances are the client will resonate with that and say, oh, actually, if they're putting that much effort into their own site, that much effort into talking about projects that have already completed, putting that much effort into blogs and ebooks and value, then the chances are they'll do a good job with my project. So I'll just recap those first 5. It should, number 1, it should fit the worldview of your dream client. It should resonate with them, whatever their skill level is. So you should be able to understand that, okay, my potential audience really has no technical know-how. So how can I repurpose the words that are on my site so that it speaks to them? It fits their worldview. It fits the situation they're in right now. And again, the way that you can start to get yourself in mind of that kind of stuff is to say, what have they already tried? Where did they come before they came to your site? What problem do they think they have? And can you walk them through to a problem that they probably do have? Second one is that it just must follow design best practice. Again, design best practice isn't the same as design. We're not talking about green logos versus blue logos. We're not talking about a logo that's big versus a logo that's small. We're not talking about huge screen sliders here. We're talking about how best you can build a site that ends up portraying your message, portrays the things that you want to show in such a way that's legible, that's modern, that treats all browsers alike, so it gives an equal experience to all of them, as a responsive site and things like that. And yeah, has great spacing, great use of fonts, and great use of imagery as well. Imagery is one of those things where you often get hung up on that. So the biggest cop out that I see, and again, this probably some of you guys will have this already, is kind of like the skyscape effect. So you'll go to a site and they'll have a big headline, a huge image, which is like, I don't know, like Toronto skyline or something. Is that really useful to the person that's viewing it? Unless you build roofs for Toronto for skyscrapers or something. If you're selling copy, selling your services, then it's probably not going to be useful. So if in doubt, simplify, as I mentioned. The third one then is that you must leverage effective headlines. Again, talking about why they're in this position, how you solve this for other people, and speaking in a language that they understand. And when I say language, again, it's not linguistics, it's more the things that they're saying. So if they're calling it one thing and you're calling it something that's super technical just because the whole industry is saying it, then you might lose their attention, because the attention is the important thing here. So the job of your site is to convert that attention into something meaningful, something useful, valuable for your business. And that ultimately means leads, and you can only do that if you convince them that they're in the right place. And you can only do that by convincing them that you can solve their business problem, not that you can write design code, that you can solve the business problem that they're having. Fourth one, again, tell them why they're in this situation. What have they tried? Because if you can start to do that, you'll build an element of empathy and an element of authority. Look, I know that you've tried this thing. I know that you've probably done that as well. And you've probably come up against this, this, and this. If so, then I think it's the right time for us to start talking. This type of language isn't something that you see often. Again, hopefully by just me saying this kind of stuff, it starts to at least ring some bells here. The fifth one then, it should show them your passion and experience. So you'll do that by, again, getting deep in content and value and showing that you're a respected member of the community. And again, case studies are a really good way to that. So if in doubt, perhaps think about padding out some of the things that you've already got. Again, it's sometimes hard to visualize like what you're going to say on a website. So if you can think about the projects that you've done well, break them out, make things up if you need to, but just extend them so that they're valuable to somebody hitting the site. Look how we've done work for businesses like yours. Okay, so the next one then, which is number 6, is your site should explain the solution clearly. So once you've grabbed them with an effective headline, once you've shown them your passion and experience and walked them through to why they're in this situation, it should explain what the turning point is. So you've walked them to that point, they understand, okay, this person understands me. Now we've to say, okay, well, so the solution looks like this. And again, putting it in a language that they can understand, again, having it designed with best practice in mind, and then transitioning them from you understanding them and what their situation is to, right, now let's talk about what the solution is. Number 7, your site must maximize value. This is sometimes difficult, admittedly, when your service doesn't really lend itself to visually interesting stuff. So if you are a copywriter, or if you are somebody that does a service that's hard to quantify, so if you're a virtual assistant or an admin helper, these are notoriously difficult to lay out. How can you say that you do admin stuff in so many different ways? You can't really. But if you can maximize value and say, okay, here's a book, a little mini ebook, which is 50 things that your VA should be doing that you're not doing right now, or 50 things that you could do better if you had more time, i.e. more time equals using my service. So it should maximize their value. What they're expecting from their visit when they hit your site is to have a look at the site, see it's a little bit like everybody else, and then leave. That's their expectation at that point. So what we're always trying to do, and what these 10 points cover, is how can we overcome that expectation? How can we exceed what they're expecting from that visit? So you should maximize the value either with good content, with a great experience, with video, with however you can do it. Maximize the value that they're receiving from that visit. Number 8 is point to a victory. So when the client is considering going to market for these pains, what drives them? So in the book, I talk about an example of, as a web designer, if you're trying to sell responsive web design, how do you do it? How do you tell people that they need responsive web design? And what is their mindset before they get to that point? The client will never wake up in the morning and go, I need a responsive website. What will happen is Sue from accounting will say, John called me and he said that he was going to complete the thing, but he couldn't get on the website because he was on his iPad and he was on the beach. So we've lost the deal. That's the pain at that point. The pain is a realization that your site is less than appropriate for a certain subset of audience. That's my pain. My pain is I'm losing people like Bob, who was trying to get on the site. I'm losing them on a daily basis because my site isn't visible to them. So that's the pain, and that's what you got to try and agitate at that point. So the victory, the beneficial outcome for the client isn't, yes, I've got a responsive website. It's phew. People like Bob and people like him have a perfect experience on the site. So they rave about us. They really enjoy going on our site and they buy more stuff as a result. That's what you should be talking about as a person that's delivering this message of we can do responsive web design for you. It's not we can do valid HTML5, CSS, jQuery, web design and development. It's, do you know how many Bobs you're losing because you've not got a site that's mobile friendly? We can help. We can change that. And then when we change that, you'll get much lower bounce rate and abandonment rate, and people will resonate with you and your message. So that's the victory point. That's the beneficial outcome for the client. Not that they've got a new responsive website. That's really not what they care about. What they care about is having a good flow of people hitting the site that are able to do the things that they as a business want them to do. So that's buy stuff, that's inquire, that's call them. That's the beneficial outcome. The thing that you're selling is the vehicle to get to that point. And the same can be said for all areas as well. I know that we've got Katia on, who is a translator. So she translates from English to Spanish and Catalan or vice versa. So what's the victory point? Well, the victory point isn't that they have a big sheet of 1,000 words in Spanish. They don't celebrate about that. What they celebrate about is that the readership in Spain jumps 20%. And the readership in Spain jumping 20% means that Spanish advertisers can advertise on a site or whatever, if they're a big site or whatever, or if they've got a magazine that needs to be translated, then 20% jump in circulation means 20% jump in revenue and 20% jump in profit. So their victory at that point, their beneficial outcome is, oh God, I've got a 20% uplift in profit. Not I've got a 1,000-word Spanish document. So what's the victory? What's the beneficial outcome for this prospect? And are you talking about that on your site? Because if you're not, then again, what you'll experience is probably a little bit of what you're experiencing right now, and it's a whole lot of nothing. It's silence. And again, I've been there. Like I said, this is not my first time around as a freelancer. And that first time around, I struggled with the same things you're probably struggling with. A website that's there, but is not something that I shout about, let's say. It's something that is there and kind of I wince if somebody asks me for it. I hope that they'll take me on face value because my site is fairly neglected because I've not got round to it or whatever. A site shouldn't be that. A site should be a fulcrum of your online world. It should be a center point for your business. And if it's not, then there is something wrong in there. It's either you're not getting enough people to it, or you're not saying the right things when people get to the site, or it's not designed in the right way. So these 10 things will really help you get to that point. And again, it's a real shame that we've not got the slides here. I just hope I'm doing a good enough job of at least visualizing what was on those slides, because for the first 5, what I did, because we've only got limited time. For the first 5, what I did was show how other people were doing it. One of the things that we mentioned was that I was going to reverse engineer some sites, which I did in those slides. So we'll see at the end. We'll see if we can pull back some of this stuff. But anyway, you'll all get the PDF, which will be all of the slides in there. But there were some fancy graphics and movements on there, which I would have liked you to have seen. But such is live broadcasting. Okay, so that was number 8, point to a victory. So this is number 9. It should have a clear call to action. I cannot tell you how many people get this wrong. A clear call to action is not find out more. A clear call to action is not contact us. A clear call to action is not let's talk. No. What a great call to action is, in the next 5 minutes, if you give me your email address, I'm going to send you this, I'm going to send you that. And it's a no-brainer, clear indication of what's going to happen next. When someone presses that button, they need to be absolutely clear what's going to happen from there, where their information is going to go, what they're going to get in return, how quickly they'll get it, and what they can expect. So this is why I recommend a middle ground. So what I often see again is let's talk and huge form. That should only be at the end. So as I mentioned, right at the outset there, one of the things that top bracket freelancers understand and do well is understanding that their site is a vehicle for starting a relationship. It's not a vehicle for closing the deal. And that's, again, what a lot of us miss out on. So we'll say things like, what's your budget? We'll say things like, fill in this 10, 15 input field form, and I may or may not get back to you because you just say submit. How do they know that they're going to get action in 24 hours and so on? So instead, why don't you offer them something that is probably just a reworded blog post or a reworded email with some FAQs in there. So again, if you're a web designer, it's the 10 things that you should be doing on your website right now that is losing you money. Or if you're a copywriter, words that you're using on your site that aren't really working for your business. Or if you're a translator, the lay of the land as it relates to Spain. So are you missing out on custom from Spain because your site is not translated in that language? And again, putting that in a report, a white paper that can be downloaded for people that aren't 100% ready as yet. If you get a 1% conversion rate, that means you're happy to wave goodbye to 99 out of 100 people. So what you want to be doing is putting in place a clear, no-brainer call to action, which says, I'm not happy with 1 out of 100. I'm not happy with, waving goodbye to 99 people. I want to get at least 10. I want to get 20. And then start that relationship and nurture them from there. It shouldn't be the closing mechanism, your website. It should be the start of that relationship. Then from there, you can nurture them by email. When I send out the slide deck, I'll cover off a link which you can get 3 months of getdrip.com. It's a great platform for managing like autoresponder emails and things like that. But you can do the same with MailChimp, Campaign Monitor, and so on. But anyway, what we want to do is have a clear call to action. So if it has to be a form, then at least make it engaging. At least make there be a reason why somebody should complete this form. So if you landed on the page which confirmed your registration for this event, you'll have seen a small form on there, like a little box like this, and it kind of like moved around and was a little bit more engaging. That platform is called Typeform. So if you go to typeform.com, you'll find some great ways of displaying forms. It doesn't have to be huge, long forms anymore with a million fields. It can be something that's quite engaging, that's cross-device. So it must have a clear call to action. That doesn't mean contact us. That doesn't mean talk to us. That doesn't mean speak to us or whatever. It means I'm going to get something in return for this interaction. Bring the friction down as much as possible. So again, the maximum friction you can instill in someone is asking them for the credit card details or whatever. And then kind of closely behind that is a 10, 15 step form. People just don't want to fill that stuff in. So if you can give them a really easy way to get in touch, what if it's just, right, put your Twitter handle in here and I'll reach out to you and we'll chat on there. What if it's a really short form that offers them something? What if it's a free consult? What if it's booking a slot to talk to me now? All of these things are possible, and they're all much clearer than, a form that says start your project with us or whatever. That should be in there, don't get me wrong, but it should be a secondary call to action. Number 10 then is the site should pass a user test. This is a really good one because it's probably not something you've ever considered. So you can use a platform like 5secondtest.com or Peak, which is peak.usertesting.com, and have real people look at your site and answer questions about the struggles that they're finding on it. So real people looking at your site and saying, yeah, okay, I understand kind of this is what they offer, and putting themselves in scenarios. So your site should enable people to quickly identify what it is you do, what struggles they might be having, what they should do next. And if your site can't, then again, there's a problem there. So once you've got all these 9 points done, then your site, should be able to pass a user test. Again, 5secondtest.com is pretty good. Peak.usertesting.com is good. Usertesting.com, which is paid for one, but again, you'll get as many tests as you need there. So number 10 is that your site must pass a user test. So again, we'll just do a quick recap of all these, and then what I'm going to do is jump on to some Q&A. So start adding in your questions here, and don't ask me about PowerPoint anymore, ever. Number 1, fit the worldview of your dream client. You should understand that they need to understand what's going on quickly and in a language that they understand. Number 2, it should follow design best practice. It should be well spaced. It should have great fonts. It should have the right type of colors, the right type of imagery that's right for the type of person that's going to be hitting the site. Number 3, leverage effective headlines. So it should tell somebody really what they're thinking and pull out of them what kind of things they want to know. Again, looking at the being sat across the table from a prospect, what would you say in person that you're not saying in your web copy? If you're using overly technical jargon, would you sit across from somebody who wasn't really that technical and say, yeah, I build in jQuery and HTML5 and CSS3 and everything? You just get blank look because they don't understand it. It doesn't fit within their worldview. If it does, then great, have at it. But if it doesn't, and if your audience, your potential client is somebody that's not as well versed as you are, and then tone it down a little bit, convert it into a language that they will understand. Number 4, again, tell your dream client why they're in this situation. So explain to them why they're in this situation, because you'll build an element of empathy. It's kind of like the doctor. If you were to go to a doctor and say, Doc, I've got a problem with my shoulder here, and the doctor was to say, so did it start in your right foot and then kind of like move up the side of your body and up to your shoulder? And you would say, yeah. Then instantly you've got an element of credibility there, of authority, because you understand and you can tell them better than they can probably how they've arrived at that point. If you can do that, then you've got, as I say, an instant credibility, an instant authority, and people will listen. Number 5, show them your passion and experience. Passion and experience can come in many flavors. You got value by content, value by kind of like video or whatever, and value by just talking to them. So, inviting them to start a conversation with you. Passion by showing them, lengths that you go to put together case studies and things like that. Number 6, should explain the solution clearly. So while you've got all this great content on there, it's also useful to bring it back a little bit to say, okay, here is all the stuff. Here's how you got to this point. Now let's talk about how that gets fixed. Number 7 is maximize value. So again, over deliver. Give them something that they didn't expect. They expected to hit your site looking for a service potentially, or because they found a link from somewhere else. But give them something they weren't expecting. Give them a great post, like front and center. Give them an opinion piece. Give them a video. Or give them an ebook. Give them something that maximizes the value of their visit. Because if you do, they'll come again. It won't just be 99 out of 100 people that'll leave. It'll maybe be 80 in the first instance. And again, on Freelance Lift Pro, what we talk about is getting people back to your site. So the theme for this month is a big theme for every month. The theme for this month is driving attention. So the theme for last month was narrowing down your audience and multiplying chances of kind of getting that audience because they're a narrower subset. Then we looked at specifics on building out a website which really works, again, like we're going through here. And then the theme for this month, which is February, is grabbing attention from where it exists online, pulling it back to you and your message. So it should explain that solution clearly and maximize the value. Number 8 is point to a victory. If you do nothing else, do that. Try it. Try and try and kind of get yourself in the mindset of what that person is experiencing before they hit your site, and what pains are they coming up against. Again, like the responsive web design example, their fist pump moment isn't when their site launches, it's when they realize that they've had 5 more inquiries this week from people on mobile devices. That's the clincher. That's what they care about. And the sooner you realize that your skill, whether it's design, writing, coding, whatever it is, your skill is the thoroughfare to that. That's the means to the end. Their end point, their victory, is, as I said, that beneficial outcome to them and their business. Then you should have a clear call to action that makes it a no-brainer for somebody to start that conversation with you, and remembering that your site should be a vehicle for starting a relationship rather than like finishing it. And then the 10th one is, once you've got all that in place, or it's even a good idea to do this now, do a user test. See what people say. It's all too easy to look at your own website and say, well, that could be better, that could be better, I like that and I don't like that, because somebody that's never seen the site before will review it in a completely different way. So that's it. That's the 10 things that your site should do. I'm going to check out the Q&A items now, and make sure that you all don't hate me for not having slides. So let's have a look. Okay, so I'm just going to go into a couple of Q&A items, and then I'm going to try and get slides back while I do. Well, no, actually, what I'm going to do is do the site review. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to do a little bit of questions here. So let's grab this question here. So this is from Ignace Butenas. Oh, sorry. So I can't pronounce names, and I cannot do PowerPoint. So hopefully I can do something. But so if my action call would be something like, want to proceed, click here and book 1 hour free consultation, then he gets the available time to book. Is that, and he's able to book quick, does that sound like a proper call to action? Yeah, you've got it right. You'll have seen it a million times before. You go onto a freelancer website and it says, fill in this form and I'll get back to you. But if you were to do it like that and say, look, I've got an open calendar here, I want to talk to you, you'll get a free 1 hour consultation, just book in your time. Doesn't have to be anything too serious at this moment in time. Drop in your email first, that's all I need at this point. We don't need too much more than that. Jump onto the next stage, pick your time, and then we'll talk and we'll see roughly whether we're the right fit. If you can frame it like that rather than, here, fill in this form, then you're going to, again, build trust, build empathy, and and get it working in such a way that's going to be powerful for you and drive those leads. So yeah, you've definitely got that right there, Ignace. Okay, slides not changing. Let's see. So grab this one from Jason. I like the view on call to action where it's more than just contact us or learn more. But if the goal of the site is to get someone to call and make an appointment for a dental office, there's no need for the patient's email. The goal for them is to call. Yeah, definitely. But one of the best mechanisms that you can implement is to tell somebody what's going to happen after they call. So again, callers now on this isn't as thorough as call us now and here is what will happen after this. If you can get somebody in the mindset of kind of committing to that call, then you can convert them much easier. You're going to have a much better chance of getting them to give you that information. That information is going to be their telephone number ultimately if they do give you a call. But yeah, put them in mind what's going to happen when I pick up that phone. If you can do that, then you got a much better likelihood of them making the call because they can visualize themselves doing it. So let's see, there's a few coming here. So just scrolling through. Okay, Joseph. I'm an amateur freelance photographer who would like to launch a business. I have not much knowledge about web design. However, I created my own website with no knowledge. Please suggest me ideas to take to the next level. Yeah. So again, there are three big things that need to be in place before moving forward. Number one is having a really well-defined client, a really well-defined customer in mind that ultimately puts you in a position of being as part of a smaller group of competitors. If you can be the web designer for photographers, or the web designer for authors or whatever, then you've got a much smaller pool of potential clients, which increases the likelihood of making the sale and reduces the reliance on going to places like Elance and Odesk, because you've got the ear of an audience then. If you can put in the work to make yourself valuable to that industry and narrow it down to such a subset that's going to be worthwhile to you, then you're in a really good position there. So that's the first thing, having a really well-defined, narrow vision for your client. The second thing is building a website that works. So building a website that crosses through the 10 things that I've outlined. And it's something that, again, we've had a look at in Freelance Lift Pro, and I'll give you a little bit of a pointer as to how you could get into Freelance Lift Pro later on. But second thing is building a website that really speaks to that message, really puts you as a valuable partner. And the third thing is driving attention from where it exists online. So with a clear vision for an audience, it's easier to go and find them because they ultimately reveal themselves, So if they've got a job title, you can find them on LinkedIn. If they follow certain voices on Twitter because they're in a certain industry, you can find them on Twitter. If they are fans of certain pages because they're in a certain industry, you can find them on Facebook, and you can pull them back to your message. And that's why it's so important to have a really defined customer, and B, have a website that serves the purpose of driving you leads. So those are the three key things there. Ensure you know who's precisely you're targeting. Second thing is to build a website that works and that converts and that tells your story. And then the third thing is driving attention. So going out there and finding the clients where they exist in their, what I call natural habitat, and pulling them back to your message. And so that's really my advice for taking it on to the next level. Let me see if there is any more in here. So let's see. So Lewis Otto, Liam speaks the truth. I applied the ideas he's mentioning now to my site, and it made an incredible difference. You have sites like LinkedIn where you can list your technical skills. A freelancer site is an advertising platform, really. Your site should be the window to you, window to your services, but it should speak the worldview and speak the language of the client that's viewing it. And it should serve all those 10 areas and make it so that it's almost irresistible for somebody not to convert. So thank you for that comment. All right, so what I'm going to do is do a quick jump into I'm going to try screen sharing again. I think it was an issue with PowerPoint being it forces full screen, you see. So I'm gonna share this screen now. You should be able to see this now. And yeah, I'm going to go through the sites that I've chosen to audit. I'm going to only do the first two, unfortunately, because we're kind of running out of time here. So the first one then is Katia. So one of the things that you do really well on this site, Katia, is to use design best practice. So you're being really clear about what it is that you do. I just think that you could probably be a little bit clearer in a language that the client understands. So I like this. I like, yes, translation matters. I like it's important to get to the heart of the needs of your client in their own language, reflecting their own culture. So for me, this type of language should go, as close to the most prominent areas as possible. It should be the primary thing that you want people to understand. And yeah, I think the content you have down here as well is really good. It's probably buried a little bit. And then I think, as I've mentioned, to find out more, it kind of, you end up getting caught in a little bit of a loop. Whereas I think what you could perhaps do is some of the words that you've got here. So why founders should care more about translation. If you were to put that into a PDF, I mean, you've got great visuals here. If you to put that into a PDF and that was to be banned across the bottom here with a simple email opt-in, and I think you'd just definitely get much more traction from that. You'd have people downloading this stuff, giving you their email address, and offering to be part of that initial conversation. And then I would make sure that this kind of language, which is the really powerful stuff, and this is kind of up in a more prominent position. So the next one was, sorry guys, I've got tons of them up here, but I'll just quickly go through Jim's here, because Jim's is a good one, because it just goes to show that you can be technical, you can show technical jargon here, provided that your audience understands it. So again, what Jim's doing really well here is making it clear that you know what their problem is. So it's difficult finding senior Rails talent. So you're speaking directly to the person, directly to the pain that they might be experiencing. And he goes on to say, you and I both know that finding senior level Ruby on Rails engineers in the Bay Area is a difficult task. And that's just great. It's excellent. So using effective headlines here, explaining to the client why they're in this situation, it's just really good stuff. Talking a language that works for their worldview. Now, one of the things that could be better is good design practice. There are some funny bits here where it's kind of like clashing. The site isn't great on mobile. I did test this on mobile as well, and the site doesn't function too well on that. So, marks down really for design best practice, but overall it's looking good. I think one of the things we could do here is perhaps make this a little bit more engaging and easy. Again, if you are speaking, then can you bring some of that together into a PDF or something that people can take as a reward for their visit, really, as opposed to I will respond and give you a copy of my resume. So that's about it. I mean, again, we're kind of running out of time a little bit here. So there's just enough time for me to show you what I've been working on. So you might have spotted Freelance Lift Pro in passing. Freelance Lift Pro is a small community of focused and driven freelancers. The cost is $65 a month. And the reason for that is because you get my time. So you get 20 minutes of my time on a monthly basis, on a one-to-one basis, to talk about any issues that you're having, talk about the problems that you're facing specifically. Then you'll get a workbook like the one that you might have already downloaded. Some of the ones that you've seen might be, the hourly rates don't matter or whatever. You'll get one of those every month, and then a video course which kind of talks that theme. So the theme for this month is going out and driving attention. So effectively marketing. How can we do marketing well? How can we drive people back to our site? And then you can catch up on some of the things that have gone before. So as I said, the first month was defining that specialist client. How do we find it? Where do we find it? How do we research? How do we whittle it down? How do we shape our message so that it works for them? That was that month. Then we looked at the getting more out of your website. So we've got a website template that you can drive more stuff from. Then from there is this month, so February, driving attention to you and your message. The cost for Freelance Lift Pro is $65 a month. But if you're willing to take this step, if you're willing to trust me that I'm better at making you better than I am with PowerPoint, then I've got an offer for you. So if you head to freelancelift.com/offer, what you'll get there is 3 months of Freelance Lift Pro. Remember, it's $65 a month normally. 3 months for $99. That's a 55% drop. And then, rather than $65 a month, you'll get 25% discount for life. So the ongoing cost there is only $49 as opposed to $65. You're getting 20 minutes a month of my time, with more if you want to double that up there. But I really hope you can join me. I'm going to build a small group, a group of 100 people, because that's the amount of people I can build a connection with and help personally. I'm never going to help 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 people personally. So whilst I can keep the group as small as possible, whilst I can justify my time for doing things like this, for doing the live workshop on a monthly basis, because that's one of the things you'll get as well, coaching, a video course, which is between 5 and 10 videos, a live workshop, and then my time. So there's lots and lots of value in there, as well as a Slack community. So Slack is, a chat, basically. People talking about some of the things that they're trying to implement, sharing ideas, sharing things that they're up to, and basically getting the most out of Freelance Lift Pro. So Freelance Lift Pro is there for you if you want the motivation, accountability, direction, and tunnel vision, really, to making this a better year for you as a freelancer. I promise I'll be better at PowerPoint, and I'm secretly really disappointed, really, in the way that that went, because I think the information is good, but presentation frustrating, because that's one thing that I'm really big on. So again, hopefully you can join Freelance Lift Pro. Just go to freelancelift.com/offer, and you'll see all the information on there, which will give you a little bit more information about what you get on a monthly basis. But basically, it's 3 months of Freelance Lift Pro for just $99. That's $30 per month. My time alone is worth more than that, and I will say that. I'm quite open about things like this. When there is value, I'll tell you that there is value, and there definitely is value there. My rate on Clarity is like $300 an hour. This is a coaching platform, and you'll get an hour of my time there for just $99. So that's about it. I'm not the type of person to sit here and pitch either. So if you have any questions about Freelance Lift Pro, please drop them in here. I'll stick around for the next few minutes, but the session is kind of over. So drop me any questions here while I'm here now for the next 5 minutes about Freelance Lift Pro, about the offer, about the $99 for 3 months, because it's a great offer that probably won't be around for too long, because I'm expecting the group to fill up fairly quickly. So yeah, freelancelift.com/offer. Once you're in there, then you'll get an email which will have all this stuff in, and then we can arrange the first call. We'll talk about the things that are important to you for 20 minutes, and we'll see whether we can get this going. So freelancelift.com/offer. Now, I'll stick around, and if you've got any questions, please drop them in the Q&A here, and I'll do my best to answer them. So let's see. So Michael, your content is excellent. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing the slide bundle. Took lots of notes, reading your book. Love your approach. No questions yet. Thank you. I promise I didn't pay Michael to write that. Yeah. Slides. Crazy, man. Something really valuable. Get people to commit themselves by telling them what's next. Yeah. Again, I think that's referring to the call to action stuff. Yeah, definitely. Definitely something really valuable. Get people to commit themselves by telling them what's next. Yeah, tell them what's coming up. Okay. Again, it's pretty sad seeing all these questions on here with people struggling to see stuff, but never mind. Nothing on. Will you be uploading this content later? Sharmila, will you be uploading this content later? Yes, I will. I'll drop everybody an email that was on this session today, an email with profuse apologies, and yeah, with everything in there. So yeah, definitely you'll get this content by email in the next day or so. Can see your whole desktop. No slides, but insightful. You're talking. Yeah, I mean, there's loads here. Absolutely loads. It's sorting out perfect. All right. Well, if there are no other questions now, I'm going to sign this off. So as I say, I can stick around if you want to drop any questions in here. But yeah, freelancelift.com/offer. That's where you'll get all the information about the offer for the 3 months of Freelance Lift, which is normally $65 a month for just $99. It's valuable. It'll help you push forward. And yeah, it's definitely something that I believe in. So let me just take a quick look. Yep. Okay. No further questions. So really happy. Yeah. Okay. So again, freelancelift.com/offer, and let me know if you struggle getting in there or anything's not quite right. I'm going to sign off. My name's Liam. This is the book, Stop Thinking Like a Freelancer. You've probably got it already, but what I'd like to do is join Freelance Lift Pro. If you don't, I'll still keep sending you good quality free content. But if you can, join us and we'll see what we can do together. So without further ado, I shall sign off. Have a good day, and let's push on. Hopefully you can get something from the notes and from the slides that I send over. So thanks again, and I'll speak to you soon.